So if you followed the channel for any length of time, you might remember that back in the summer, right after I got my X Pro 3, I was going on about the whole switching camera systems thing. I was thinking about moving from Canon to Fujifilm because I was so impressed with the images and the usability of the X Pro 3 after getting back into the Fujifilm system. Recently, I've been really content with my decision to stay in Canon and Fujifilm, to be in both systems. But I was on a shoot this weekend shooting with this guy, and this got those gears turning, leading me back to Fujifilm. And you might see why when I show you some of these example images that came straight out of my X Pro 3. Hi everybody, if you're new here, my name is Zach. I'm a photographer and arts administrator based in Santa Barbara, California. And today's video is all about this guy. This is the Fujifilm XF 50mm f2. So this lens comes in at about $450, which is a chunk of cash, but for what you're getting, it's a pretty good value. You could also probably get this lens used for a good deal. If you've watched the other videos I've made about the f2 primes, you will know that they have a really solid build quality, and this lens does not disappoint in terms of build quality. It's made of metal and glass. It feels really solid in the hand. It's only 200 grams and it's pretty small, as you can see, but it feels really solid and well built. These lenses are also weather sealed, so they're ready to be used in a variety of weather situations. So obviously this lens is designed for an APS-C camera system, so this is a 76mm equivalent in full frame terms. That's just not a focal length that I love. I've used 85mm lenses before in that sort of area of focal length, and it's just not my favorite. They feel a little bit too tight, but not tight enough to get long shots if I need them. It also just doesn't feel like it's versatile. I don't know. It's just a completely personal preference. I know people love shooting portraits with 85mm. I prefer 50. 50 is just my go-to. I've said before in videos that 50 was where I started, and I just am more comfortable with that. So as far as the focal length goes, it's not my favorite focal length, but I do think that this is a really beautiful lens optically. In terms of image quality, this lens is superb. If you've watched my videos about the 23 or the 35, you'll know that I've said those lenses, with the exception of the 23 wide open, have a really beautiful optical quality to them. The image quality is great. The 50mm f2 is super sharp, wide open, and is beautiful out of focus area. It lets in a lot of light being an f2 lens, and you can really capture some beautiful bokeh in portraits and other close-up images. The close focus distance of this lens is just over a foot, so you can get pretty close to your subject and really blow out that background and just create a beautiful blur. It really is a nice bokeh for this small of a lens. I was shooting with this lens in the studio over the weekend. I was really pleased with the fall off that this lens was providing me. At f2, I could get my subject's eye in focus, but the rest of their face would sort of fall away in a really nice way. So autofocus, I've had no issues with this lens. It works very much like the other lenses in the f2 lineup. It's fast to focus, it's pretty quiet, and has really done a great job for what I needed to do. Again, I'll say that the Fujifilm focusing system on the X Pro 3 is not as good as the Canon system, and I typically use single point autofocus. The face detection does work, but I just feel more confident with the single point on the X Pro 3, so that's what I use, and with this lens, I've had no issues. Something that you might not consider with this kind of lens is that it's really nice for capturing close-ups in video recording. I shot a few videos for Opera Santa Barbara using this lens on the X-T3 on a gimbal, and I was really pleased with the result. We were actually shooting in a pretty small studio space, so this lens was the perfect focal length in that situation to get me a relatively tight shot on the singer's face. It being f2 was able to let in a lot of light and let the background sort of fall away, and it produced a really pleasing image. And I love that it's very compact and fits nicely on the X-T3, especially if you're shooting on a gimbal or something like that. It's nice that this isn't super heavy. It worked really well in that situation, produced some really beautiful results for video. So who's this lens for? I mean, I really love the 50 f2. I think it's great for a variety of situations, including portraiture, landscapes. You could use this for street because it's so small and compact. It could give you a little bit tighter view than you might think of for street photography. It might be nice. You could really use this for anything. It's a versatile lens to keep in your bag because of that size and that weight, and the fact that it's sort of weatherproof for all situations. You might be comparing this lens with the 56 1.2 and the 50 f1 from Fujifilm, which are in that sort of similar focal length range. I have used the 56 1.2, which is a great lens. I haven't used the 50 f1. I think it's pretty obvious what the trade-offs are between the three of these lenses. You know, they all sort of go in $500 increments from each other. So this lens is about $450. The 56 is about $1,000 and the 50 is about $1,500. So if you want the 50 f1, it's going to cost you triple as much as this. So the more you pay, the more light you get into the lens. There are other different quirks and things like that, but you know, you have to consider, okay, if you go for the faster aperture lenses, they're going to be bigger and more expensive. This 50 is only an f2, but it's relatively inexpensive compared to the other two lenses, and it is also weather sealed and compact and all of that. So those are things for you to consider. You know your situation better than I do. I've chosen to go with the 50 because, as I said, I just don't need the fast aperture lenses for my X Pro 3 because I prefer having a really compact setup with the X Pro 3, and I have fast aperture glass for my Canon system. So I'd love to know what you guys think about this lens. Have you used it? Are you going to use it? Are you going to try it out? Are you interested? What are your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments. If you're new here, consider subscribing and say hello down below. I'd love to meet you here and see you in the next video. Thank you, as always, for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.